standing around looking at them, wishing they were doing it. And it just said so much to me about, you know, what we could perhaps look towards, and that is children. And I remember, you know, coming to the National Portrait Gallery and just thinking, why aren't children's works being represented here? And why aren't we seeing children? I think they know so much and they lose so much when we take it away from them.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, the question is... oh, sorry, is it meant to be questions? We've got to ask you something. Okay. I'd like to ask you to play.
Right. And another person there. Have we got microphones here?
Oh, hello. Yes. Thank you very much for looping the debate. My question was, do you think that art hasn't kept up with the generation? In the last 25 years, technology has taken off so much that if we went back to the mid-80s, you know, the fax machine was about all we had, and now suddenly there's just so much out there. And I just wondered whether in 10 years' time we will see that art has actually caught up with this generation. You know, even the question seems almost out of date. You know, can art be taught to the Twitter generation, because Facebook's so yesterday now? And right. I just wondered what the thought of that.
Okay, has art got left behind?
I think there's an obsession with novelty, you know, and it's a very 20th century idea that we have to sort of be new all the time and keep up. Why can't it just be good? You know, nowadays I don't necessarily describe myself as a contemporary artist. I'm just an artist, because I sort of worry sometimes that, you know, when people go to art galleries now, they just want novelty rather than good art. And you know, the fact that formally, you know, we have got a fantastic opportunity. I mean, good art will come out of the internet in its own good time. In any culture, just let it grow. I don't think we have to force it and be, oh, we're not up with the kids. You know, just, it will happen. It will happen.
Okay, another question?
By default, Facebook generation implies young people. And I'm just about to turn 57, and I've been invited by my two teenage boys to join Facebook, which I did 2 days ago. And I'm just curious about what we all think about it here, because I find it very exciting.
You could become my friend.
I could too. And you could become my friend too.
Yeah, but you would, that's the whole point, that he wouldn't be your friend, would he? He'd just be a bloke on your Facebook list who's called a friend. That's not, I think, you know, and that's the whole point of it, that you know, it's like the first time you meet someone you only ever met online, it's a shock. Because they can spell, they can put a sentence together, but you really wouldn't want to spend 10 minutes with them sometimes, you know, because human interaction is 80% body language.
Right. Anyone at the front wants to ask a question? We need a microphone here, yes.
I find the Facebook generation as people who use technology in the web, not necessarily an actual age. And my question, one of my questions is it about art or is it about creativity? And does art put it too much on a pedestal? And I think what Antony said was important, that after the age of 10 something happens, and the self-consciousness sets in. And if you're told you can't draw, you potentially eliminate creativity from your life. I think what the web does is encourage and become the catalyst for different tools to promote creativity. And isn't widespread creativity as important as art, making it more accessible to everyone to find their own self-expression?
I think that at the back of your question is a fear and a hope. And the fear is that in some way the tools that are put in front of us in the screen in some senses are an illusion, or they kind of promise us things that maybe are taking us somewhere but taking us away from ourselves. And I think that is I mean, for me this issue of Facebook and you can be my friend is that in a sense I have enough friends and I don't see them enough. And I don't need any more, and I'm not sure that what the friendship that Facebook offers is actually any compensation for the lack that I already have in terms of not having enough contact with the friends that I have grown up with, as it were. So the issue is what is this tool doing in terms of its transformational power to our ability to relate on a real level? And what I would say is exactly what Grayson has said, that actually body language, that thing of sharing space, time, the seasons, elements, whatever, they are really critical to, I think, what art has to offer, which is that it is, I don't know, it's a palpable extension of embodiment. That's so far as I'm concerned. I think that I don't rule out all of the extra capability that both the web and digital technology offers. I think it has to be, I mean, I'm saying what I said before, it has to be shared in a palpable way. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that we're actually dissolving something of our palpability in our fascination with the material, with the kind of digital.
Stephen?
I think that's absolutely right. I'm very glad Antony hasn't entirely ruled out the significance of the greatest revolution in communications in man's history. But I think it's a very important point. I mean, I'm actually very, very, very sort of equivocal about social networks, computing, all new technology. I think it's very important to recognise that art's a fugitive activity, and it most effectively occupies different media at different times. But the other thing, the very important point to recognise, that clearly there's an extraordinary technological and communications revolution taking place now, which is actually changing the way we actually think and behave. But my point simply is that no new communications activity has ever completely replaced its predecessor. I mean, printing didn't replace writing, radio didn't replace printing, television didn't replace radio, and computing is not going to, no matter how sophisticated it gets, isn't going to replace any of the other media. I mean, the whole business is cumulative. I just have this absolute conviction that that art, however defined, has now sort of gone somewhere else, and that the new technologies will create new disciplines, new skills.
We're running out of time now, so I've got two more questions, and then that's it. People have got microphones, one here and one over there.
I was just wondering if maybe the question shouldn't be whether art can be taught to the Facebook generation, whatever they are, but surely the people that are teaching art should be able to teach the skills of and the materials that are available through digital technology. So teaching coding or web-based work or digital image manipulation. The teachers should be aware of those skills so that if artists that are up and coming want to use them, then they can. They're sort of the way that they can express themselves isn't limited by what the teachers are teaching them in relation to current materials. Do you think that's...
Teacher, do we? Although I'm sure you lecture.
Well, a lot of lecturers are using Facebook as actually a way of communicating to their students now and doing seminars and things like that. Huh?
Like, where are you?
Well, maybe, yeah, that's probably a most common plaintive cry. But I think it's quite... I think the trouble is that things are evolving so fast. It's like, when the painting skills were established, it went on and on. But now, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a lecturer who taught kind of IT technology to art students, because I mean, you have to update yourself like faster than a plumber every year, wouldn't you? To keep up with the technology, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. I think there is a really serious question about how. I mean, when I was at school, I took a radio apart. I made a radio that worked. There was a basic nature of those technologies that you could understand. I think that in a sense we are now all wedded to technologies where that is totally impossible. And the degree to which learning to write code and be able to manipulate it adequately to do something interesting, the degree to which that would take time away from, I think, your direct potential of expression, I think is a real question. I would say that perhaps there is in a sense, a responsibility to understand the technology that you're engaged in. I don't write code, but I use it a lot.
Yeah, but painters don't know how to make paintbrushes necessarily.
No, well, I would say that that's the right answer. That you have to find the things that you want to use, and you have to decide for yourselves whether or not how deeply you involve yourself in the internal mechanics of a technology.
I think that's one very, very simple. I think we much admire what Antony and Grayson do. They do seem to be locked into sort of quaint practices. I think the whole thing about new technology is how it excites creativity. The man who invented communications theory and the binary, the whole binary mathematics, said, I just had to invent the maths necessary to make this possible. I mean, that's the sort of level of creativity, and I've dropped my technology. That's the level of creativity which I find absolutely fascinating.
Now, one final question. Someone has a microphone at the back there.